we are, folks. Another week of nailing the audio cues on the Rec Poker Podcast, Forums Edition. I'd like to thank website AMP and Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino for making this possible every week. Because every week I have the best job in the world. I get to hang around with this panel of Rec Poker wizards. We take a post from the Rec Poker forums and we talk about it here on the air. So in case I didn't mention, my name's Jim Bluffsterini in the home games. You can find out about me by going to rec.poker/crew, where all it takes is an email and a smile to sign up and get a free account. And there you can find out about all these members of the Wrecking Crew, like the one and only Chris Jones.
And I'm Chris Jones. I'm 5B5 on Twitter and 5x5 on PokerStars.
I'm John Somsky, and I'm Poker Geek MN everywhere.
Sorry about that, John. I'm Keith Brandt, and I'm Monkey System everywhere.
I'm Kim Kilroy. I'm Perky56 on our home games and PetBet33 or PetBet everywhere else.
And I'm Rob Washam, and I'm Radman50 everywhere.
So here we are. It's Monday night. We're playing in the nightly home game. We're stealing each other's chips. We are getting ourselves ready to talk poker. We're looking at a forum post this week from 7High11, who is a relatively new premium member who has been posting, has been in a couple of our conversations recently. So it's great to be chatting. 7High11 posts, how many big blinds are too many to call with ace king? This is about a tournament spot, well, a couple of tournament spots. So I'll just go over the two different spots and we can talk about what we might do, why we might approach them differently or similarly, and the value of a hand like king high, ace king in a spot like this. So for the first spot, our correspondent 7High11 says, I had roughly 60 big blinds. Effective stack was 29. They shoved into me from middle position and I overshoved. One of the blinds came along as well with a stack just about the effective stack. We won't get into what they had. In the second, just an orbit or so later, the cutoff raises to 5 big blinds and our hero shoves to isolate with 30 big blinds, and they call. So are these the proper shoves? And our man here, 7High11, wants to talk about what is the right action. What should he even be thinking about in these moments to decide whether it's a profitable play or not? So is there anything about these scenarios that stands out to any of our members here on the panel? About one or the other that makes them feel like there's a clear answer here? I see Rob and Keith, you have your mics on.
Well, on the second one, I'm wondering about the cutoff raises to 5 big blinds, which is a pretty big open generally, because normally you be 2, 2.5, maybe 3. So have we seen this player open previously for smaller sizes? And all of a sudden they up it to 5 big blinds, or is this a standard for them all the time? That would raise a question to me of what, the strength of their hand. It might inform me a little bit more about the strength of their hand, depending on what I've seen them do in the past.
That's a great question because he mentions here that he is the effective stack at 30 big blinds. So when this player does open to 5x in a tournament situation, even if they are pretty deep, that's not going to usually be their standard opening size. So I wonder if there is something that we can tell. So Rob, if they told you that their range was very strong, how would that affect what you would do with ace king here with 30 big blinds?
I may choose to just call as opposed to shoving.
And it's that stack size that it's kind of hard to 3-bet fold, right? So you can't.
Right. You're not going to. I wouldn't 3-bet at that point. If I knew based on their sizing that they're going to be raising with a very strong range there, I may choose to just call with my ace king, see a flop, and then go from there.
Kim, do you have something on that?
No, I think the sizing issue is really key in this. Like if this is this player's normal sizing, then I like the shove. If this is a sizing that is not normal for this player, if they normally raise 2 to 3 big blinds, say, and now they're raising 5. Well, that would see alarm bells that they probably got queens, kings, or aces, maybe ace king suited. But often players that change their bet according to the strength of their hand won't be doing this with ace king offsuit or ace queen. So some players do this with 10s and jacks. So I think it's a lot of it depends on what we know about our player. If this player turned over their cards and showed us pocket queens, then we should call. Or we should shove, because we need to see all 5 cards when we have ace king to realize our equity with the hand. So just calling for 5 big blinds, I mean, I don't like it, but I see why Rob thinks we should do that because of the large bet sizing. But the problem is we only get to see 3 cards. And if we are putting aces and kings in their range, we're going to be in a lot of trouble there if one of those cards hits. And if we don't hit, we've just lost 5 big blinds. So, I mean, one of the strengths of ace king at this sort of 30 big blind level is the fact that you can get folds pre-flop, and you can you get to see all 5 cards, so that you're really only dominated by kings and aces.
Yep, and I think 30 big blinds is that it's really one of those threshold stack sizes where it's not too deep to shove ace king, but you don't really want to be getting that wide in your shoving range at 30 big blinds, but it's too short to sort of have a really well figured out 3-bet folding range as well. So it's kind of a handcuff of a stack size, which is why I think it's a good example.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to say that, our member here is putting this in because they called with queen, queen when he shoved and he didn't hit. But if he had hit, then he probably wouldn't have posted this and we wouldn't have heard about it. So
Yeah,
he's
that's
kind
true.
of being a little bit results oriented, because next time when he has ace king, he'll probably hit
Right.
and double up through the queens.
And
Chris?
I guess that's part of the point with this is that I think the question that started this was how many big blinds are too many to call with ace king. And I think part of the worry with ace king is it is a really it's the hand that we're going to get into the flips the most with. It's the hand that we're going to have to accept that, right? We've either got to accept that, and the optimal way to play ace king is to get into these kinds of situations, right? And sometimes we do this and they have ace queen and it's like woohoo, but most of the time we're going to be flipping, right? And one of the beauties of ace king is that it flips with almost everything, right? And that it's so well protected against anything that's like a disaster. The only thing that's disastrous is aces and kings, right? Otherwise it's pretty good against pretty much any other possible holding they can have, and we block those great holdings that they can have. They have fewer possible aces or kings because we hold an ace and a king. So for that reason, I'm willing to get a lot of chips in the middle, especially our correspondent here talks about there's no ICM implications. And so when we are in this sort of accumulation phase of a tournament, and there might be spots where we're up against certain opponents who we see they're only doing this with aces or kings, right? We know that they're really tight, or there's certain tournaments that are really important to us, like that we're playing in the main event, right? And it's the first time we've ever played in the main event, and we don't want to take this spot. And those are the kinds where we're making decisions, but they're not the actual optimal decisions. And when we're playing in a tournament where we can just maybe online and we can just buy into another one, or it's a daily and we can just play the next day, these are the spots we need to take, and we need to accumulate chips this way. And sometimes we're going to bust, and that's okay.
I think that's a really good point. It's really important to know what stage of the tournament you're at when you're deciding what to do with ace king here. So when ICM is not a factor and we're in the middle stages of a tournament where we're just trying to grow our stack, it's a great time to get into a race. And we're even, I think, 30% versus kings. So it's not, aces are the only sort of really bad thing to see. As far as the first one goes, which is, so that shove, I mean, I don't mind the shove there, I'm fine with it, but like I said, you should take into consideration this large range size, like Rob was saying, and what you know about the player. In the first one, he's talking about calling off when somebody open shoves, not calling off, has them covered, but someone open shoves 29 big blinds. And I can't see most players open shoving 29 big blinds with kings or aces. So therefore, we're sort of in the same situation.
Yeah, so let's just remind our listeners here. So in this case, we've got 60 big blinds, but there's about an effective stack of 29 big blinds. They shove from middle position, and then it's on us. The hero does go on to shove and ends up getting called from the small blind as well, so it goes into it three-handed. But I think you're right, Kim. When someone open shoves 29 big blinds, they're not usually doing it with aces and kings, and ace king just does really, really well against what's left of that range. Chris?
So the trickier spot, and the spot that I keep finding myself in, is when somebody does this, and let's say with the roles are reversed here, right? And somebody else then shoves over the top, and now we've got ace king and we're in the big blind. Those I think are trickier. This to me is a slam dunk. Like there's just let's get it in. We're going with this. But the trickier spot is when I think the roles are reversed here, and we get another 30 big blind stack or another stack that covers our original shover shoving into the middle. I'm probably still getting it in, but it's a little trickier.
Yeah, I was going to say those would be trickier if somebody shoves and somebody with a stack close to yours, I tries to isolate just by raising or by shoving themselves. Now you're sitting there with ace king on the big blind, and it's like, wow, what are they doing it with? What are they over shoving and isolating with that I'm ahead of? It only could be queens is the only one I'm going to be that ahead of. So that's a scary one. And I probably, depending on the opponent, I could very easily just fold that ace king and go on to the next hand.
John, was there something you wanted to add in there?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, in my mind, I've always thought, somewhere around the 30 to 35 big blind mark, if I get ace king in a normal fashion, meaning no one is playing weird, I don't feel too bad about it playing for about that amount. You're not going to make that big of a mistake most of the time doing that. And I think being willing to do that puts you in a position to win more tournaments than if you're too hesitant to be able to do that. So, I mean, there are lots of factors that everyone else has discussed that would lean you one way or the other. But just in general, if you're looking at getting 30 to 35 big blinds in with ace king and you don't have something that is making the other player scream strength, then I don't think it's too bad of a play.
I was looking a lot at ace king offsuit after I had it in a game recently, where we were 75 big blinds effective, and I raised from I think the hijack, and I got 3-bet by the button. So I raised to 2.5 big blinds. I got 3-bet to 8.5 big blinds, 8 big blinds. And I just called, and I ended up losing the hand on an ace high flop, all my chips. But when I went back home and looked through Floptimal, I am actually fine to shove ace king offsuit with 75 big blinds when I'm going to be out of position in the hand. And it surprised me because it was 75 big blinds. So John's talking about 30 and 35, and this was 75, that it's okay to shove 75 big blinds when you get 3-bet and you're going to be out of position for the hand.
Yeah, it's great. A big sizing on that 3-bet too. So that made that was a kind of interesting situation. We talked about that in one of your hand history groups, I think.
So what was your read on the player that 3-bet you?
It was Elizabeth
are
Bennett Martin.
Oh, wow.
Denmark.
Jam it in.
But
I always thought that was too much to shove. And when
Yeah.
I went back, and it is, if you have ace king suited, they don't want you to shove that. They just want you to four bet it. actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And if
So
you were in
you-
position, maybe they'd have a different play as well. But
and in
but-
position, but out of position, they like
Offsuit.
the shove with
yeah.
the offsuit ace king.
And that's something, you know, we do talk about the difference between calling versus shoving and how ace king is kind of better suited as a shove because of its blockers, that kind of thing. Chris, did you want to jump in there? For a
Well,
second?
I was just gonna say, because like I actually it's just today I was just, you know, it's kind of my last day before I had to go back to work and then back to reality and whatever it was today. So today I was taking it easy. I watched a little bit more of some main event coverage from this year, and there was a player who had ace king of hearts on the button, day 3 of the main event. They're you know, they're not in the money yet. It's early in the day, but they're kind of, it's today is the day the money bubble is going to go. And there's an open and then a call from 2 early position players. We've got ace king of hearts on the button and they flat, and then the small blind squeezes to like 10 big blinds, right? And it comes back to the button who's got ace king of hearts with 30 big blinds, main event, and they fold.
Hmm.
And yeah, I know, right? And it was and the player who did the squeeze rightly read this situation. And I think that the small blind had ace jack offsuit, right? And so like he was just in a dream situation, this player. But I think sometimes we get in our own heads around ace king a lot, and I think players get. I think we have to be more willing to. This is a hand you can get it in the middle a lot with.
This reminds me a lot of episode number 157, where we looked at a spot. Rob Adsom, I think, wrote in a hand about. I don't remember if that was exactly. I think we did two hands that episode. One of them was an ace 5 hand with Rob Adsom, and one of them was a hand where it was a multi-way spot like this, and we're considering whether to call all in. If memory serves, there should be a video. If you go to the Rec.Poker YouTube channel, there's a Wrecking Crew Jim Reed playlist there. You should be able to find a video of mine. It's called Prepping for Episode 157 with Equilab. And I use some of the Equilab tools where you can calculate what a calling range should be given the equity, given the ranges and the stack sizes of your opponents and the action in the hand so far. So if you're interested in really breaking this down scientifically according to your assumptions about your players, check out that video, and you can use some of the free tools on Equilab to find out the answer that suits your actual spot, because it is a very calling with ace king is a fine art, and it's like kind of like playing jacks pre-flop, right? Except Chris says no, there is a good way to play it. Get those tips in the middle.
That's
Oh,
why
you
it's
have-
often so powerful as a shove, right?
Yeah.
That's why ace king is so powerful as a shove, because it really is only ace high.
Hmm. Well, I want to thank 7 High 11 for putting this really excellent post out there in the Rec.Poker forums, and Binkley and Chapo, Sir Gas Leak, and Eric Anderson again. Eric Anderson just posts these remarkable replies. He uploads PDFs. He's got this amazing screen grab of all these different approaches to looking at the ranges. He's talking about the limitations of the Sklansky Chubakov rankings. This Eric Anderson guy knows what he's talking about. So come get a free account at Rec.Poker, post in the forums, learn from these kind of wizards, and come on this show with us. And you can talk about this kind of stuff with everyone else in Rec.Poker Nation. So thanks to all those members. And of course, thanks to everyone who is here today, Chris, John, Kim, Rob, and Keith. Website AMP, and of course running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. And all of you, dear listeners, talk to you again soon.